Welcome back to the Midnight Narrator, where the longing for lost loved ones can lead to the most unholy of bargains, and the echoes of the departed may carry a chorus of unimaginable suffering. Tonight, we delve into a chilling legacy built upon the power to draw souls back from beyond the grave, a power that comes with a terrible price and a hidden chamber of unending torment. Prepare to confront the horrifying truth that some doors are best left sealed, and some voices should never be recalled. Join me as we unearth the Progenitor's legacy. Turn down the lights, listen closely, and consider the true cost of defying mortality. In a world subtly warped by the arcane, a container of pale wood, utterly unadorned, possessed a disquieting marvel: the ability to draw forth echoes of individuals from beyond the veil of mortality. This power had been the foundation of my progenitor's considerable wealth. "This legacy will one day be yours," he declared, his voice resonating with a strange mixture of pride and weariness. "Therefore, you must observe and comprehend all that I demonstrate and articulate." The container itself offered no visual clues to its power. Pale, smooth wood, devoid of carvings or symbols, it was unnervingly ordinary. Yet, it emanated an aroma, elusive and unsettlingly nostalgic, faintly saccharine yet underpinned by a metallic tang. It whispered of past times, of sugary confections, of warm breakfast cakes cooling on a morning griddle. Those who sought our services were often siblings, families fractured by oceans at the moment of a parent's final breath. Living continents apart, they arrived too late to offer a last farewell, a final whispered word. Their desire was simple: to utter those unsaid words of parting. For this fragile solace, they were prepared to offer fortunes. For the contraption to function, my progenitor required specific components: a recent likeness of the departed, the garments worn in their final moments, and a cherished object imbued with personal significance. "We have brought what was requested," they would state, their voices thick with grief and a fragile hope. They presented a photograph, faded at the edges, capturing themselves with their parent during a distant reunion. They offered a timepiece, gold gleaming softly, stating it had been their parents' constant companion since youth, ticking faithfully through the decades. My progenitor arranged these items within the pale wood container, alongside the plain gray garments he himself had donned that day. The air thickened with anticipation, a hushed expectation that tightened in my chest. The rhythm of my heart accelerated, a frantic drumbeat against the unnatural stillness. Abruptly, a percussive sound broke the silence. 3 distinct raps echoed from within the container before my progenitor, with deliberate slowness, unfastened the lid. The elderly figure within appeared initially disoriented, blinking in the dim light, but upon beholding the tear-streaked, smiling countenances of offspring, a fleeting but genuine joy illuminated their aged features. For a span of 2 hours, they remained in solitude within the chamber. I observed my progenitor's vigilant watch on his wrist-worn timekeeper, its ticking a stark counterpoint to the unnatural stillness emanating from the box. "Why this temporal limit?" I inquired one evening, the question burning within me. "Such are the stipulations, offspring," my progenitor responded curtly, his gaze fixed and distant. My progenitor escorted the bereaved siblings from the chamber. Their expressions were etched with the fresh anguish of parting, yet beneath it, a faint residue of peace, of closure finally attained. My initial encounter with the reanimated was a perplexing juncture, simultaneously unsettling and strangely poignant. The raw, visceral transformation in the faces of the mourning families, as they embraced their lost loved ones once more, was striking. When confronted with the irrevocable demise of a progeny, parents would readily deplete their coffers, sacrifice fortunes for a fleeting reunion, a final desperate embrace. This couple, hollow-eyed and trembling, had journeyed from a distant hemisphere. The raw agony of losing their child in an unforeseen incident was etched into the very lines of their faces, a landscape of inconsolable grief. "Have you brought the required articles?" my progenitor inquired softly, his voice barely above a whisper. This was his favored plaything. He was never without it, the woman explained, her voice cracking as she offered a small, worn wooden toy. My progenitor placed the items within the container, the worn toy nestling against the gray fabric, and led the couple into an adjacent room. A palpable tension coiled in the air. Suddenly, a scent, acutely redolent of cherished lost memories, permeated the space as the container commenced to quiver, a subtle trembling against the floor. My progenitor approached and, with a slow, deliberate movement, removed the cover. A youthful boy, fair-haired and bright-faced, gazed upwards, a wide, innocent smile illuminating his features. His cerulean eyes shone with an impossible vibrancy, and he carried the delicate, fresh aroma of a newborn, impossibly pure. "Mommy, Daddy," the young boy exclaimed, his voice a sweet, childish lilt, as his parents collapsed, weeping, enveloping him in their arms. My progenitor maintained his unwavering, watchful gaze upon his timepiece as we remained in an adjacent room, the ticking seconds echoing the fleeting nature of this borrowed time. "I detest this phase," my progenitor murmured, his expression somber, lines of weariness deepening around his eyes. Upon re-entering the chamber, the newborn's innocent scent had vanished, replaced by a putrid stench cloying and sickeningly sweet, like overripe fruit left to fester. The boy's vibrant cerulean eyes were now as dark as coal pits, utterly devoid of light, and his youthful visage deathly pallid, almost translucent. "The parameters were explained, Madam Jefferson. The time is elapsed," my progenitor stated, his voice flat, devoid of inflection, swiftly ushering the boy's weeping parents from the room, their cries raw and heartbroken. My progenitor left me alone in the room with the boy. I watched in abject horror as the boy, no longer cherubic, emitted piercing cries of agony, a keening wail that clawed at the silence. His skeletal structure contorted and fractured with sickening pops and cracks. I recalled the boy's parents recounting his demise, succumbing to extensive fractures when a heavy piece of furniture in their dwelling had toppled upon him. A cruel echo now reenacted before my eyes. The boy's face twisted in unimaginable torment as he began to crawl unnaturally in my direction, limbs bending at impossible angles. My breath caught in my chest, my legs rooted to the spot, terror seizing me in its icy grip. His small, decaying hands grasped at the hem of my trousers, their touch icy and revolting. A scream welled within me, a silent shriek trapped in my throat. Suddenly, my progenitor rushed back into the chamber, his movements swift and decisive, and wrenched the animated corpse from me, his touch surprisingly gentle despite the horror of the act. The entirety of this procedure engendered a profound unease within me, a gnawing dread that settled deep within my bones. Witnessing that unfortunate boy writhe in anguish was a spectacle I never wished to repeat, a vision seared onto my memory. After the parents had departed, leaving behind a silence thick with unspoken grief, my progenitor lifted the boy, who continued to weep weakly for his parents, and carried him from the room, his small body limp and broken in his arms. "What will be his fate?" I questioned, the words barely escaping my lips, heavy with dread. My progenitor remained silent, his countenance grave, a look of guilt, or perhaps something akin to despair, flickering in his eyes. He paused, then spoke, his voice low and hollow. "They are deceased offspring. Of what consequence is it now?" Halting before a substantial steel portal set deep within the stone wall, my progenitor turned to me, his countenance grave and burdened. He didn't look at me as he spoke. "You must pledge one thing. When my own time comes, you shall never recall me." An inexplicable dread ascended my spine, cold and sharp, as the odor of death intensified, permeating the air, clinging to my clothes. He entrusted me with the heavy, cold iron keys to the portal, the reanimated boy in his arms still emitting soft, distressed wails. My hands trembled uncontrollably as I inserted the key into the lock, the metal cold and slick against my clammy skin. I cautiously pushed open the portal, and a cacophony of agonizing screams assaulted my ears, a wave of sound that threatened to overwhelm my senses. The chamber beyond teemed with countless moaning and lamenting forms, a heaving mass of suffering, some calling out fragmented names, desperate pleas for loved ones they could no longer reach, lost in the echoing abyss of their unnatural existence. It feels improper merely to bury them, he stated, his voice barely audible above the tormented chorus, as he cast the animated boy, like discarded refuse, onto the writhing, moaning heap of the living dead. And there we conclude our deeply disturbing and unforgettable journey into The Progenitor's Legacy, a story that leaves us pondering the ethical quagmire of reanimation and the profound suffering that can arise from selfish desires. What was the true nature of the progenitor's power? What horrors lay within that steel portal? And what burden of knowledge and silence has been passed down to the inheritor of this terrible legacy? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. If this tale has left you with a lingering sense of dread and a profound unease about the boundaries of life and death, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and activate the notification bell to join us on future journeys into the darkness. This is the Midnight Narrator signing off. Until next time, remember, some legacies are best left buried.